welcome to our microphones, former Spanish court interpreter turned lawyer, attorney Beyanid Montoya. Cole, Bea, how are you tonight?
Hello, everybody. Happy to be here, Attorney Santos. Thanks for inviting me.
Well, it's great to see you. You know, I know you so well as being in court. I go into court and I see you there as a Spanish court interpreter. And one day you tell me, hey, you know what? I'm in law school. I'm almost done. I'm going to take the bar. You did, you passed, and now you're an attorney. Why did you do that? Why did you decide to, jump in there and become an attorney? I'm sure it wasn't an easy decision.
It was not an easy decision. It was a lot of work. Well, you are an attorney, you know this. However, I've been working with the Hispanic community as a court interpreter for 10 years now. And I've seen there's some gap in communication because of cultural and language barriers. So I want to be that attorney that the Spanish speaker can come to and feel comfortable, well, you understand me pretty well, you know where I come from, and also I am an immigrant myself, so I can kind of say, well, I was in your shoes.
Yeah, exactly, and I know that's something that, when people are in court and if they speak a different language and they have an attorney who's of the same language, it's a lot more comforting for them.
Absolutely.
So you're in court, Spanish interpreter, decide to become lawyer. You have to study at night, on weekends, around the clock. At that time, single mother raising a couple of young children. I mean, oh my God, all I can think to myself is, how did she do it?
You do it. If you have to get up and study, you get up and study. That's what you do. You do what you have to do.
Well, I got to tell you, a lot of people are out there thinking, wow, she's really got some, that old-fashioned work ethic that sometimes I think some of the younger generation and some of the folks who were born here in the U.S., they've let that slip away a little bit.
Well, as an immigrant, I know what it is to start from zero, and you come with a lot of tenacity. You come with a lot of drive, and that doesn't really go away. It kind of stays with you.
All right. Well, if you have any questions for Bea, type them in. Let us know where you're watching from. We got Fall River. We got New Bedford. We've had people from Florida, of course, that are New Bedford and Fall River transplants that are always chiming in. So let's learn a little bit about you, right? You're originally from Colombia and decided to come to the United States pretty young, early 20s, right? Is that right? Or you came earlier than that, and then you came over and really tried to make a go of it here, right?
Well, I was only 20, but back then, Colombia was going through a rough economic and social situation. It was the end of the 90s, 2001, 2002. We had a lot of political unrest and violence going on. So just like many immigrants, I was looking for better opportunities, and I was trying to leave that environment. And yes, looking for the American dream. Why not?
Well, we have somebody watching from Houston, a Martha Lucia Velez watching from Houston, Texas tonight, and very proud of you. And so we're very glad to hear from Houston, Texas tonight. Well,
thank you, Martha.
Studying around the clock like that, I mean, and getting ready to try to get by the bar exam. I mean, I can remember the bar exam. It was a long time ago for me, but how did you get ready for the bar exam?
Oh, quite the challenge. Well, you have to pay for some sort of a private course that is just designed for that, so you can pass the bar exam. And it was a little scary when I found out that only 1 in 3 people who took it with me passed. And I'm wondering, am I one of them? But I was. So relief, don't have to take it again.
Well, did you know Chops? Chops over here, he's a singer. And, we were asking him before. Yeah, he's a singer. And, Chops, do you know any Spanish music? Do you have any, seeing as how we have, lady here tonight?
I did a Mark Anthony song. I Need to Know It. I don't know if you heard that song.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
When I do that song and we do the intro part, I come in with a little saying, "Esa muchacha está buena," People look at me a little crazy, but I picked it up by a friend of mine. because it makes it interesting on the intro and the introduction of the song.
Right.
And then
well, I remember the song Shakira. Shakira is from Colombia, and in that song "Hips Don't Lie," they say, "I want to see you move like you come from Colombia." That's how I know you're from Colombia.
Shakira, excellent representative of our country.
Yeah. So you talked about when you first came here, right? Things are a lot different here than they are there culturally and everything else. You talked about the civil unrest and so forth. So you came here and, as such a young person, 20 years old, you mentioned, how did you make a go of it?
I was studying languages back then, so I always liked languages, and I try to find a way to help people too. So how can I help people use languages, and really working for the courts was an excellent way of doing that. It's kind of bittersweet to leave my role as a Spanish interpreter because I love being that cultural and linguistic bridge, but maybe I'll continue doing it just in a different capacity now.
Right. Well, you ended up getting your citizenship here in the United States. Tell me a little bit about how you did that.
It was through a family petition. For years, I was not documented. I mean, it wasn't clear. And then through a family petition, I was able to obtain my permanent residency and then my citizenship. Not an easy process, and you do get vetted. By the way, you do get vetted. For those out there who don't believe this.
Looks like you passed the test with flying colors. I can see,
Apparently.
Well, the interesting thing is, right, as you're coming through, you got to go, apply and everything. And a lot of people are debating, like, is it too difficult for people to apply to become citizens of the United States? Should it be made easier? Should some changes be made, do you think?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. The process can become shorter. You can still do the vetting, but it doesn't have to take years. And for some applications, depending on the type of application, this can take a decade or even longer. So yes, we can make it more efficient, especially when we have a family petition. If we're petitioning for a family member, we're really asking for that support. And when we have our family support, we can be stronger in society. We can contribute more meaningfully. So I think it's in everybody's best interest for those family petitions to be processed more expeditiously, let's just say.
Well, the Supreme Court just came down with a case, right? The DACA decision, to make a long story short, DACA are the dreamers. Those are kids that came here when they were really young and really don't remember any other country but the United States. So regardless of which side you are on the kind of the political debate, it seems to me pretty harsh. We can't go and deport somebody like that. To me, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Yeah, and really the decision was made based on the lack of procedures. There's this guideline called APA, Administrative Procedure Act, and it applies to all administrative agencies that belong to the federal government. So what the Supreme Court is saying is this decision was arbitrary and capricious. They did not follow the right procedures, and the procedures are set so the process can be fair. So pretty much it was a way of saying we were not fair here. And yes, I'm happy with that decision, of course.
Do you think that some folks, they get into these, polarizing arguments back and forth and things like that? I mean, a lot of times it seems like people are kind of harsh when they're evaluating, someone who's an immigrant or something like that. What do you think?
Well, it's kind of hard to be able to understand someone and where that person comes from and try to see their talents and skills when you can't even understand their language. And English and Spanish are just very different languages. So we have a huge challenge as Spanish speakers in the US. I would say, first of all, we have to learn the language, but it's just not easy. I mean, you come here to work and support your family. So it's quite a challenge. It's doable, but it's tough.
Well, the thing is that, when people do come and they have issues here, again, having someone like yourself, you talked about core values when we've talked in the past, kind of setting up a situation where you can really relate to the person you're representing?
Let's say talking about immigration cases, more than relating, it's being able to help all those. I've seen a lot of cases where there's a criminal case, and that case also has immigration consequences. And maybe that criminal defense attorney is not very familiar with immigration law, or maybe that the immigration law attorney is not very familiar with criminal law. So I want to be able to give my client the whole picture. This is how this decision, this resolution in your case is going to affect you, your immigration status, and be able to understand them and communicate more effectively, just because we come from the same culture.
Yeah, right. We are envisioning doing, some criminal defense to help, Spanish-speaking population and those who might be affected by the outcome of the case, as well as, the immigration cases that would come your way as well, correct?
And that is correct.
All right, great. I see Chops in there. You were talking about Spanish music before. I know a song that I was just singing. Remember that Julio Iglesias, "To All the Girls I've Loved Before."
Oh, yeah.
Travel in and out my door.
Oh, yeah.
That's it. I don't know.
You know the song again?
Julio Iglesias. I don't.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
the Spanish singer. Yeah.
That's right.
To all the girls I've loved before, yes. So that was really nice. So there's a lot of terrific Latin music, and Chops has been able to do that, Spanish music and so forth. So, what do you notice about the music, say from your native country, Colombia, compared to say the United States? Is there like a difference? I mean, in the United States, you get all kinds of styles.
Well, our music has a lot of African roots.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Colombia is probably a third country with the highest percentage of blacks. So we have that, the drums and the dancing, and so we dance before we walk, kind of thing.
All right, sounds good. You still have family there in Colombia, and you get back there to visit and so forth?
Yeah, absolutely. And things Colombia is doing so much better right now in so many ways. So actually, I've been going back often, and I try to go back as often as I can. It's a lot of fun, and I'm proud of my family. I'm proud of my country. My family members are leaders in their community. It's nice to see that.
Now, talk to me about your future plans. I know not only in court, but you're also a member of some organizations here in the area.
That is right. And the Massachusetts Association of Hispanic Attorneys. So we're working on some short videos, maybe 2-minute video clips, providing general information to the Hispanic population, just because our criminal justice system, in general, our justice system is so different that a lot of us as immigrants don't understand the most basic concepts. So we're trying to help with that, and that's what's coming up next. I'll keep you posted.
Sounds good. A lot of times people will talk about, the cases where people come to the border and ask for asylum, and you got to kind of vet them and so on. Did you have any thoughts on that?
Yes, the process is becoming more and more difficult. If somebody comes here asking for asylum, that's because their life is in danger, and they need help right away.
Yeah, right. Usually that's the case, that people are, having issues. But how do you determine, who are the people that are having legitimate issues, and, somebody that, maybe be a dangerous person trying to sneak in or something like that? Like, how do you balance that out? Because a lot of people do raise concerns there too.
And that's a legitimate concern. But if you look at what people have to do to get here, risking their lives, it's kind of like counterintuitive to think that they're here to be dangerous and to attack anybody. They're trying to save their lives, really. And there are ways to find out whether or not this person has been persecuted.
Well, the next time I go into court, I'm going to walk in, and I don't know when that's going to be.
September, like, maybe.
I don't know. I think we're going to be doing this virtual stuff for a while. But I would go to court and I would see Bea there all the time and do an excellent job doing the Spanish interpreting services in the various courts. Well, the next time I go in there and I'm going to say, hey, wait a minute, she's here as an attorney now. That's pretty cool.
Wow.
How did you do that? People are mentioning as they're typing in that you should be congratulated for your hard work and perseverance paid off, and it's really nice to see you working so hard. And people are mentioning that it's great to see someone in the Spanish community out there to assist someone who maybe has an issue and they don't know who to turn to. And if you're an interpreter, I've represented Spanish-speaking folks, and you go through an interpreter and you try your best to really, reach out there and get a feel for what they're going through. But it's not the same as having experienced it yourself and speaking the language also.
Definitely. And by the way, during the 10 years that I was a Spanish code interpreter, I got really good tips and I learned really good skills from those attorneys around me, including you.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that. You're not just saying that, right? That's really the truth.
Not just to be nice. I'm just being honest.
Well, it's funny that you say something like that because, you've translated how many hearings? Like it's probably hundreds, right?
I would say about maybe from 5,000 to 10,000 hearings in 10 years.
So in those 5,000 to 10,000 hearings that you interpreted for, you had to be thinking to yourself, oh, okay, I'm listening to the attorneys. I'm listening to what I think is a good argument, what good preparation is, what shaky preparation is too, and stuff like that, right? So you were able to see it all and learn from that, right?
Oh, I've seen great examples, and let's not talk about the rest. Most of the examples are great.
Hey, Chuck, I think what she was trying to say before was she was thinking about going to law school, and then like she saw me there as an attorney, like, hey, this guy can do it. I can do it too. Look at this guy right here. This guy's a stiff. I mean, I can do it. No, that's good.
Attorney Santos, I want to be like him.
Well, that's great. You want to be like me? I want to be like Chops. I want to be
like me, man.
I want to be able to sing like a really good like Barry White. Nice love song, And,
oh man, great.
Hey, Ben, I'm not going to ask you to do it anyway. But do you do any singing? Were you ever somebody that liked to sing or anything like that?
No, the interview is going well so far.
So we don't want to mess it up, right? That never stopped me before. I can tell you that.
It would be completely unnecessary.
Well, I got to tell you something, right? When you go into court, because I was in the DA's office, right? So I was a prosecutor, right? So then when I went into private practice, I ended up going into the same courthouses with the same judges and the same clerks and the same probation officers, right? So I think you're going to find that too, that you're going to go into court as an attorney. And it's going to be like, hey, you're more comfortable than somebody else that's brand new that's just going in there for the first time, because a lot of the people in there.
And really, the benefit is not only to me personally. I will be comfortable. I am comfortable, but the benefit is to my clients and to everybody else, because I kind of like know what the process looks like and what the expectations are. So, yeah, that's great.
Well, how's this for a shout out? A gentleman who I interviewed when he was visiting here in the United States, James Cote from Ghana, West Africa. How about that? Right.
Oh, wow. Hi, James from Ghana.
Yeah. So that
beautiful country, too.
Yeah. Have you been there?
No, but I have friends from there.
Oh, okay. All right. I just wanted to make sure, I mean, that Chops, he's Mr. Worldwide, By the way, Bea, I wanted to mention, I wanted to say to Chops, you are surrounded here by two excellent attorneys. So,
I see that, man. I might need you guys.
We got you.
I got you. You call this right here the dream team.
Yeah.
No doubt.
No doubt about it. All right. Well, so Bea, it's really great that you were able to stop by here tonight. Is there anything that you can think of, in terms of your focus going forward? You're setting up your office. I know we're in the middle of this COVID-19, but I know you're trying to get yourself organized, and you're already, getting some consultations going and stuff like that. So how do you see like the near future for you?
So most of my what my legal practice is going to be will be doing consultations where we can provide value. So even just in the consultation, because I've seen so much, I will likely be able to help my client regardless. And then I'll try to not take many cases because I really want to focus on the communication part of it. I want this client to know that he's going to be heard and he's going to be able to get in touch with his attorney, and it's not going to be a big deal.
Right. All right. So I know, Bea, you picked up some, pointers kind of sitting in the courtroom as a court interpreter, watching some of the lawyers. And I'm sure every once in a while, somebody went up there and you thought, oh boy, this attorney here. You don't have to mention any names or anything. I'm just
I'm right now.
You can't. You didn't know you're going to get any tough questions here tonight. Anyway, any court people that are out there, you want to give a quick shout out to any folks out there? I'm sure there's a few court people watching tonight.
Well, shout out to all the people that have been very kind and cooperative and work with their heart, which is most of the trial court employees. And this is why I want to continue working in this setting, maybe a different capacity, but hey, it's still the same people. I love the people that I work with. And I can't wait to continue now, hopefully once the courthouse is open again.
All right. Well, I'll be looking forward to seeing you as well once the court opens, and it's going to take a little bit of. I'll see you come in. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, she's ready to battle it out, and it'll be a little different position than being the Spanish interpreter.
Yeah, maybe I'll bring a badge just as a reminder.
Hey, Chops, maybe one day I'll go into court and I'll say, oh, what are you doing here? She goes, I'm on the other side of your case. I'm like, oh. Oh boy, I'm in trouble now.
Yeah.
Everything I heard you say, I'm going to use against you now. All right, Bea. Thank you very much for being with us tonight.
Yeah, thank you. Nice meeting you, Bea.
All right, attorney Bea Montoya Cole.